Hello, thank you for joining us. This is the TU Sports Extra podcast. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by TU beat writer John Tranchina. John, it's been weird, stressful, bizarre, crazy. Fill in the blank here. Two games so far for TU. They let one get away at Wyoming, almost let one get away last week, but to their credit, they won the game. What are you making of this team after 2 weeks?
Yeah, they sure like to make things interesting, don't they? This is a team that plays close to the edge. I mean, I feel like each game you can take positives from the fact that they jumped out ahead each time. You can take positives in the fact that after letting the lead slip away, they battled back a bit. Even in the one they lost, they kind of did that to a degree, even and weren't able to pull it out. So there are those elements there, but yes, it was an emotional roller coaster both times, and the loss against Wyoming was excruciating, and it kind of felt like it was happening again against Northern Illinois, and they were able to pull it out. So, I think TU fans could be forgiven if they're dealing with a little PTSD this week, but I think, what to make of them, I don't know. I mean, you could say a lot about it, but the fact is they did pull out the win this time. I think we'd be having a much different conversation if they did not win that game against Northern Illinois. That would have been really devastating, but they didn't lose. We're here and 1-1 and going into a game that most people think they should win. So they could be 2-1 and you kind of forget about it. We'll see. I guess, where this fits into the grand scheme of the season is still to be determined.
Sure. So if I'd have told you after 2 weeks Davis Brin was going to lead the country in passing, you would have said what?
I'd have said that's very wishful thinking. So he's been amazing. He's got a great group of receivers around him that have helped that process, and that unit together has been really impressive. I mean, yes, I would have never thought that. I did think he was going to be improved from last year. I saw a lot of signs of that in the preseason, during their fall camp and practices and stuff, but that's good. I did not see that coming. And I don't think it's a fluke. He did it 2 games in a row. I feel like he's going to continue to do that. This is a talented group.
So John, you and I talked about this in the preseason a little bit about some question marks on the offensive line. You don't have good passing stats without good offensive line play usually.
Right.
Is the offensive line just come together better than we thought, or what's going on there?
I think so. It's interesting because they've been great, obviously, with pass protection, not as good with the running game, but you could also kind of point to the running game as, you haven't had your top running backs in there. So perhaps that has had something to do with it. But as far as the pass protection, they have been really good. The offensive line overall, has exceeded expectations in my mind, being a bunch of guys that, had no career starts heading into that first game. You had one guy get injured in the second series of the season. Another guy stepped in. They swapped out another player, another starter in this last game, and they've kind of continued along. So, yes, I'm very pleasantly surprised with how the offensive line has held up, certainly.
Yeah, good deal. Okay, so Jacksonville State comes to town this Saturday. John, what's the number one thing you're kind of looking for from TU in their final not their final non-conference game, but kind of before they go to Ole Miss the following week and things get taken up a notch?
Yeah, well, the couple of things about Jacksonville State stands out to me. First of all, they are an FCS school, so immediately you think this is a game they really should win. They need to win it. They should win it. Then you see that, well, it is an FCS school, but they're actually bumping up next season to FBS. They're going to be a member of the Conference USA next year. They've already, according to Coach Montgomery, they've already been adding scholarships and such to reflect that level. So they have that. They have people. They've had a number of bigger school players transfer in anticipation of the jump up. So this isn't really an FCS school, even though this is their final season of it. the other thing is they've won all 3 games. They've already played 3. They've won them all by big margins. They've done it with superior running game. Their rusher Anwar Lewis rushed for 184 yards last week and 3 touchdowns, and the team is averaging 277 per game yards of rushing. So this is a team that has an offensive potential here, and they've got a very experienced coach who has had a history of offensive innovation, as Montgomery said. Rich Rodriguez formerly coached at Michigan, West Virginia, and Arizona, and authored a lot of high-powered offenses in those places. So Coach Montgomery was a little concerned about how the dynamic offense is going to be. Defensively, TU is going to have a good day.
I didn't know Rich Rodriguez was their coach.
Yeah, this is his first year, so yeah.
No kidding. Okay, well, yeah, he should bring an exciting brand of football. You think?
Yeah, and apparently that's delivered so far in their first 3 games. The other thing about Jacksonville State, by the way, that I found surprising when I discovered it, it's not referring to Jacksonville, Florida. This is Jacksonville, Alabama. For whatever.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So
okay,
some small town in Alabama. That's what these guys are.
There you go. Okay. Okay, John, last week I was really pleased to see TU drew north of 20,000 for a game. That was real exciting to see. Love it when TU draws well. They've struggled, with getting fans in the stadium. They've done some things this year that you've written about, that we've talked about. Describe the atmosphere for us a little bit. What was it like being at a game where there's actually some fans there? And I would imagine pretty good little atmosphere given how the game went.
Yeah. The crowd was great. I mean, it was a big crowd. They were kind of loud. They got real loud towards the end of the second half, or the first half, as they were building that lead. There were a lot of stunned silences throughout the third and fourth quarters as Northern Illinois mounted their comeback, but they were there at the end and made a lot of noise when TU pulled it out at the end. So it was a cool environment. That both the players and Coach Montgomery post game talked about how much they got a lift from that. And they all noticed some of the spruced up elements of the game day presentation as well. So I think all of that feeds together to have attracted a big crowd. And as the opener and with a lot of the new changes, that drew a lot. I'll be curious to see how things show up this week with a lesser name opponent. It's not the opener anymore, and they've already seen most of the changes. Pretty much everything is similar this week to last week. They say there's going to be some new wrinkles here and there, and that's cool. There's another country band playing on the Commons before the game. They'll have fireworks afterwards. We know that. So but it's pretty much similar stuff. But clearly the team got a boost from that, the energy of the crowd, and are certainly hoping for that again. Yeah,
no doubt. So John, you wrote about this earlier this week. So no Anthony Watkins and no Deneric Prince, at least for this week, correct? And that's about all we know.
That's about all we know. He wouldn't elaborate again on what the reason they're not in the lineup is. They're not going to be in the lineup this week. He did make a point, I think 2 weeks ago, to point out that they were not off the team. So they're not done, but we don't know when or if they're coming back and what reason. And then last week, on top of that, you had Jordan Ford, who started the first game against Wyoming at running back. He didn't play last week either against Northern Illinois, and that Coach Montgomery did say was injury related. And he was day to day. So that makes me think he could possibly be back, or he might not be. Not sure if he's going to be in the lineup either. So, I mean, that's part of the, that could account for some of the running game loss. But on the other hand, Steven Anderson has been really good. He handled most of the load last week and did a good job. Had a couple of backups, Bill Jackson and Gary Taj, come in and spell him. And when Taj came in late in the came in the fourth quarter, he kind of added a little spark that the offense needed at that point in the game. So I assume we may see more of him if Jordan Ford is not in the game. But yeah, the running back room is depleted, but so far they've done just enough,
Yeah. Okay, John, how do you see Saturday shaking out? What's your score?
Yeah, it's a good one. I feel like, they should win this. They're pumped up. I think they're going to. It's probably going to be closer than they would have thought. So I'm going to still go with like a 31-24 score. I think it's going to be closer than maybe it should be. That's kind of how this team seems to operate. They play to the level of their opponent, whether it's above or below, it seems, and they're going to make it interesting. But I think they're going to pull it out, and we're going to be 2-1.
All right, John and I will be coming at you every Thursday. You can download us for free at Google, Apple, and Spotify. We appreciate you checking us out. Hope you enjoyed it. John, great stuff. We'll check in next week.
All right, sounds good.